so much. How many of y'all haven't seen the movie already? Like 12. That's great. Thank you, all those people. I hope you like it and go tell your friends about it. The story of this movie is a long and complicated one, but it begins not so much with the book that came out in January of 2012. It begins with something that happened about 7 months before the book, which is that I announced its title. It's got a really sexy commercial title, The Fault in Our Stars. Initially, people thought it might be called The Fault in Our Stars, and it was like a sci-fi novel about like the fault in our galaxy. But it's after a line in Julius Caesar, Roman nobleman says to another, "The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are underlings." Which is easy enough to say if you're a Roman nobleman, but the truth is we all know that there's a lot of fault in the stars. That fate often intervenes and not always in our interest. And that's what I wanted to write about. So I told people the title, and that's all they knew, and by the thousands they began to pre-order the book. They did that because they supported, they watched the book be written over the course of many years as I struggled with it and failed again and again and again, and because they believed in the work that my brother and I were doing. And it really is a book that YouTube made successful, that Nerdfighteria made successful. So I'm so grateful to you for that. The movie, Josh Boone, the director of the movie, wanted to be here tonight. He has a sick kid, so he can't be, but she'll be okay. But Josh made a wonderful movie, a really loving adaptation. Weber and Neustaedter, who wrote the script, wrote a beautiful script full of heart and guts and humor and all the stuff that I really wanted to see. And then when we got to Pittsburgh, Shailene Woodley and Ansel Elgort and Laura Dern, Sam Trammell, Willem Dafoe, everybody in the cast, they all cared about it so much. They cared about it the way that you guys had cared about it, the way that you cared about it when you read it, and in many cases, well, those of you who have read it, when you read it and in many cases shared it with your friends, and made it such a special book for me, so different from every other book I've ever written. It's not an exaggeration. When you watch the movie, I hope you like it. It sounds like a lot of you have already seen it, and if you hated it, you probably wouldn't be back for a second viewing. But when you watch the movie, I think that you can feel that, this is a little bit whimsical and borderline supernatural. I apologize for that in advance, but I actually think that you can feel, I think there's something in the movie where you can feel that it was made with love. It was made by people who cared about each other and cared about the story and really and truly cared about you and wanted to make a story that would honor and please you, that would show the world that, you, at least the teenagers among you, are incredibly bright, curious, fascinating individuals leading extraordinarily complex emotional lives. And also a story that hopefully captures the richness and complexity of people living with illness and with disability, who so often we imagine monolithically. We look at them and can only see illness or disability. But of course, that is not how they see themselves, just as when someone looks at us and sees us merely as a nerd, or merely as fat or skinny, or merely as anything. They're not seeing us as we see ourselves. We all inside know ourselves to be leading rich, complex, meaningful lives, and it's difficult to imagine that in other people at times. But because it's difficult, it's extremely important. I tried in the book to write a story that acknowledged the complexity and richness and meaning and fullness of short lives, of lives that involve chronic illness or chronic disability. I hope it's up to y'all to decide whether I did that, and again whether they did it in the movie. But that was certainly the hope. I guess the last thing that I want to say is that the movie was carried through by the memory of my friend, too, dedicated Esther Earl, who's such an important part of our community. She died in 2010 of cancer. And she's just so important to this book and to our community. Esther's story is not in The Fault in Our Stars. We're very lucky that Esther has told her story with the help of her family and friends in a book called This Star Won't Go Out, a beautiful book that captures just what a wonderful, fascinating, complicated, difficult, humorous, angry, cynical, everything-y person Esther was. But above all, a person of tremendous love and tremendous empathy. And it was, in the end, not anything about her illness that inspired the book so much as it was her ability to empathize, her ability to imagine what other people were thinking, to imagine what other people were feeling, and to respond generously, and her commitment to find ways to tread lightly upon the earth and to see that as a kind of heroism. It's a huge inspiration to me when writing the book, but it also remains a huge inspiration to me in the way that I try to approach my life. I want to thank you guys for being part of VidCon with us this weekend. It's been so special for me. I hope that it has been for you too. And I really hope that you enjoy the movie. Thank you.